You're listening to The Happiness Agenda. I'm Steve Zapato, your host, and today we're going to be joined by John E. Lewis. And John has a PhD, and he's the founder of Lewis Nutrition. He created Daily Brain Care and believes in the power of polysaccharides. Oh my gosh, wait until you hear how he believes he can help you and your loved ones improve your health. You're going to really, this is going to be impressive. I think you're going to love it. So,
Okay.
John, would you tell us a little bit about you?
Sure, I'd be happy to, Steve. I consider myself a health and wellness advocate, mostly through nutrition and dietary supplements. Secondarily, I guess you could say through exercise, but I've been on this journey for a long time. I started out when I was just a little kid. My grandfather, when I was probably 4, maybe even 3, he started pitching baseball to me in the backyard. Poor guy had the worst rheumatoid arthritis you ever saw in his hands, but still was, loved his grandson and introduced me to playing baseball. And I played sports other than soccer. Anything that had a ball, I would play it all the way through high school. And then I got into drug-free competitive bodybuilding in college. And that really motivated me to learn how exercise and nutrition can be utilized for some very specific goal or purpose. Sports before was just, having fun and being competitive, but bodybuilding takes it to a whole different level of being.
And I'm going to interrupt you and ask the question because there's a lot of people who, bodybuilding brings on a different connotation. It's a steroid usage and bulging
Right.
big muscles. And you had said, I think, something like natural bodybuilding. But
Correct.
it's important to understand that people who do natural bodybuilding don't inject themselves with stuff, don't have bulging big muscles. It's one of those deals where you have to know your body and you have to get to learn it, right?
Absolutely. Well, I'm still a pretty big guy. I mean, even though I don't compete anymore, I still do a bodybuilding type of exercise training routine. I just was not willing to take the risks of taking drugs. I think, the average person, probably the only bodybuilder he knows is Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's the only guy who's ever really achieved that level of notoriety and fame. Maybe Lou Ferrigno, he might be a second, but
Yeah, that's
other
right.
than those two, most people don't even know who bodybuilders are. So I didn't think it was worth the risk of the potential long-term health effects just for some pursuit that wouldn't pay my bills or really get me very far in life. So that's why I never chose to do drugs.
Yeah, and that's why it's important for people to understand that part of John's journey has been to figure out what works for your body, what doesn't work for your body, what makes you feel better. And so,
That's
John,
right.
how did you get into? I mean, I've got a thing here that says the power of polysaccharides. Well, how do you go from a bodybuilding guy to a polysaccharide guy?
Well, that's a great question. Along my journey, when I was, considering what I was going to do with my professional life as I was going through college and my training and then grad school and then getting into research initially, I was interested very much in nutrition and dietary supplements. And I had already started working in that area in research at the University of Miami. And then I met a couple of people, Dr. Reg McDaniel, Miss Barbara Kimley, and they shared with me their stories about polysaccharides. Dr. Reg on the aloe side, Barbara on the rice
Wait,
bran side.
what they shared your journey of polysaccharides. What is a polysaccharide? I mean, is that like a flour I go out and eat?
Exactly. Polysaccharides are complex sugars, Steve, and so that's a good point for our
But sugars
listeners.
are bad for you, right?
Exactly right. That's one of the leading and prevailing myths that people, you hear it, especially us as Americans, you hear the word sugar and you immediately think bad, just like you said.
Yeah.
So sugars, I always like to educate people that sugars are really dependent on 2 primary characteristics to determine goodness versus badness. One is the source. So a high fructose corn syrup, sugar, is a monosaccharide, a simple sugar. It spikes your insulin, it spikes your glucose. I think we can all generally agree that's not the kind of sugar that we want to eat every day, if ever, really. Then the next layer of complexity or level of complexity is a disaccharide. That's like table sugar or sucrose. Again, if you're eating that every day, it's probably not exactly the best idea. And then finally, we have these polysaccharides. These are hundreds of glucose units attached together with these very sophisticated glycosidic bonds that, Steve, they have the most dense information of any nutrient known to mankind at this point, more so than amino acids, fatty acids, certainly vitamins and minerals. And all of this information is what the genes, not just from polysaccharides, but from everything, the genes interpret information that we put into our mouths or gets absorbed through our skin, and it then tells the cells how to function. And so these polysaccharides, my colleagues and I have studied from aloe vera and rice bran, I would argue are just as beneficial as anything that Mother Nature provides for us. And so just please, all of our listeners, be mindful. I mean, as a scientist, as an author, as somebody very particular about our language, be mindful of the fact that if you hear some talking head say all sugar is bad for you, that's not a factual statement, actually. Again, it depends on the source of the sugar and the type. And so these complex polysaccharides, complex sugars from aloe vera and rice bran are actually very healthy for us.
Well, you were saying aloe vera and rice brands and that kind of stuff, and I've been really diagnosed as diabetic for the last 10 or 15 years, I guess. But starting about 4 or 5 years ago, I really, when my blood glucose, whatever that thing, when they stick your finger and you were really high. And my wife said, "Hey, you got to figure this out, right? Because I'm not going to go on without you, even if I have to kill you to do it." And we started looking at all this stuff and paid big money for a specific doctor who said he could cure me of diabetes. And they put you on these special diets and they put you on these things. And I think most of it is to clear up your gut health. My gut health needed real serious work because all the information we've been the last 3 or 4 or 5 years has said it's sugars that are causing us not only the health problems of our body, but the health problems of our mind, right? When we get all this stuff in there, because I'm from Iowa originally. And when you talked about high fructose corn syrup, well, when that first came out, I don't know how many decades ago, but from Iowa, you were like, oh, good, they're going to use corn. And then you find out what they've done with that is destroy the actual nutrition of corn and made it into bad things. But the stuff we're eating is killing our brain, right?
Well, it's not just our brain, it's deteriorating our entire body. I mean, every cell, every 30 plus trillion cells in our body are dependent on what we put into our mouths. And so it's important for us to remember that as much as we all love a taste of a good meal, and I'm certainly right there with you, at the end of the day, everything that we put into our mouth is coded information that our genes interpret, and they either function to our benefit, our cells, or they function to our detriment based on what it is that we're feeding them. It's like the old statistics saying garbage in, garbage out relating to data. It's the same with our cells. Absolutely the same.
And I think that's really important because I was reading something the other day too, or watching something, who knows what I'm always immersed in something. We always have to be learning, don't we? Growing
That's
ourselves.
Right.
And at my age, people, like, I live in a retirement community and all my friends are like, why do you keep doing this? You're old, you're supposed to be retired and just kick back. And I go, well, part of what I am is what I learn every day, what I can share every week with people to help them grow. And if people at 75 and 80 years old don't want to grow anymore, that's up to them. But I'm that guy and I want to help everybody, at any age. And we talk about that. And when you say garbage in, garbage out, I was, like I started to say, I was watching something the other day and somebody said, they talk about fasting, but they said, if you only ate one meal a day, you should still be in good shape because your body from our history says, the cavemen didn't eat 3 times a day. We didn't wake up and have cereal for breakfast. Even when I was growing up, cereal was just being invented, and we ate eggs and we ate ham and we ate stuff that was good for homemade bread, not this stuff that we've come to find as bread these days. So
absolutely. There are a lot of ongoing debates about what is considered the optimal diet. And then, of course, looking at ancestral patterns. I think one of the more interesting things that we can look at today that maybe give us a bit of a perspective or a bit of window into the past is the people who live in the blue zones around the world. And though the blue zones are areas where people are still eating relatively the same as people from, a couple of hundred, maybe even thousands of years ago. I'm not an expert on the blue zones, but it's fascinating to look at these different areas across the globe because they all have consistent patterns and behaviors that are the same across these different zones, even though they're, very different countries, different cultures, et cetera, but they still have common characteristics.
And it's really when you start to learn about the different cultures around the world. And truthfully, most of the time, I'm just getting now involved in African nations because
Okay.
here in America, nobody talks about Africa. They don't talk about the wars going on there. They don't talk about the history of it. They don't talk about the nutrition value. I mean, I remember there was a old Sean Connery movie called Medicine Man, and it was about him going to, I'll say Africa. I forget where he was, but how he discovered the cure for cancer. And this is going back 30 or 40-year-old movie, I bet. But he discovered the cure for cancer, and he thought it was in the flower of this tree. And it turns out it was, I think, in the ants or something that ate the flower or something. But
Oh, wow.
all the stuff that we don't know about, that we've set the forests on fire in Africa to harvest the wood and to do this. So we've got all these opportunities. And why I brought you on the show is you talked about an opportunity for us helping our relatives with mental health, right?
Well, that's part of it, but it's not just limited to the brain. It's actually for every cell in the body. If you're referring to the polysaccharides from aloe vera and rice bran, they don't just work in the brain, Steve. They work literally in every cell in the body.
So how do I learn now? So what's your expertise? You have a company. Tell me what company name is.
So our company name is Dr. Lewis Nutrition. That was founded based on the research that I conducted for close to 20 years at the University of Miami Medical School.
And what do you study or what do you market there?
We have a product, the flagship product is called Daily Brain Care. That's based on the 7 articles that we've now published from our Alzheimer's and multiple sclerosis clinical trials, looking at this formula that is very heavy in these polysaccharides from aloe vera and rice bran, which, by the way, most people, if not everybody, is not getting from, you're speaking of diet, no one's getting these polysaccharides from the diet. And so we spent many, many years. And in fact, we're still kind of studying, even though I'm not in academics anymore. We just published the 7th paper actually just a couple of months ago. So I'm not, I would say academic peer-reviewed publishing is probably not in my top 10 list of priorities running a business, but I am a science-based company. We are a science-based company that, we have a foundation that most companies in the dietary supplement world do not have. I'm not a marketer, Steve. I'm a scientist who's learning, how to promote products and that sort of thing. But at my heart, I'm a scientist who, again, spent all of these years running these, not just those 2 studies, but lots of studies. But these are the ones that I feel like are the most significant in my career to date. And so Daily Brain Care, I would put up against any other product on the market in terms of its published ability. This isn't my opinion. These are data that we've published over these last many years showing benefits for cognitive function, for benefits to the immune system, to lower inflammation, to to increase adult stem cell production, to rebalance components of the immune system, to improve overall quality of life, to reduce infections. I mean, it's just a huge amount of information that we've documented and published showing the benefits of this formula. So I'm very proud of all this work. It's I guess you could call it my inanimate baby or an inanimate child. And I'm trying to, thanks to working with and speaking to folks like yourself, I'm trying to spread this message and bring it to as big of an audience as I can. I mean, I fully believe every person, again, it's not just issues with mental health or brain health. Every person can benefit from taking these polysaccharides every day, simply because prevention is just as important as any form of treatment or therapy or rehabilitation. Gosh, would you not want to prevent? I mean, you mentioned having diabetes. Well, this is the kind of thing that, again, every cell in your body can utilize these polysaccharides to help repair and restore and heal itself. It's not just about one organ or another. It's about, again, from head to toe, optimizing the health of your cells that then go up to your organs, to your organ systems, to the entire body.
Well, that's when you talk about that again. I've done my homework on diabetes, and everything seems to point to the reason we have it is because our cells shut down. they get insulin resistance. And the reason they get that is because we're super sugared. We get so much that the body says, I don't know. I mean, even I was looking at something specific the other day, and it said people who take the fake sugars, right? So you put that in your tea. Well, your body says, oh, there's a sugar. I need to prepare to digest sugars. And then it doesn't get any sugar. And so the body's in a quandary, even when you're using fake sugar that's supposed to help you with your diabetes. And that's, I think, the funny thing is you're exactly, I mean, you've got this. I say you're right. I'm learning from you, but it's the body needs to self-heal. And most things that I look at don't teach your body how to heal. They say, well, it's like vaccines. Well, we'll fill you up with all these vaccines. We're not sure which is going to cure or what's going to help, but trust me, it'll solve all your problems. Well, it doesn't. Neither do most of these nutritional things that I see. And I've tried, I suffer from a really low energy for the last 5 years, let's say. And that means I can fall asleep any place, anytime that I want. Some people call it old age, right? But somebody will get on here and I'll say, okay, how does your supplement work? I'm not talking to them, of course, because none of those people ever talk to you like you're talking to me. But they say, here's my supplement and it'll give you increased energy. So buy, 4 packs of this for $89.95 and you'll see the energy. And I take that 4 packs and I finish all 4 and I have the same energy I had before I started. And, and it's always, oh yeah, trust me. It's always one of those things you say, okay, one of these things is going to help. It's gonna. No, it doesn't. So what's the time frame? Let's say I go to your website. By the way, your website is drlewisnutrition.com. Okay,
yes, drlewisnutrition.com.
Thank you. If I go there and I order the product, what's my time frame before I start feeling better or before I notice a difference? Are we talking 6 months? Are we talking a year?
Steve, that's a great question. So I've unscientifically lumped people into 3 categories at this point. The first group of people, who are about 25% of people, will be super responders. And what I mean by that is they may start noticing effects literally within a couple of days up to a couple of weeks. I mean, I have really, really fast responses. In fact, I just got off the phone with a guy yesterday who had a brain injury, and he said now he's feeling sharper and more focused. His girlfriend said she's sleeping better, dreaming better. They've had just a tremendous response literally within a couple of weeks. So those are the super responders. Then
sleeping better. You're telling me it helped me sleep.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And as you know, we have millions of insomniacs in our country today. So sleeping is you're one of them. Yep. So sleeping is a huge issue for health. I mean, you have to sleep, otherwise your body does not restore itself and sort of clean out all that metabolic waste, especially in the brain that builds up every day. Huge issue. I would say most people fall into what I would say the normal responder group, and that's about 50% to 60% of people need 30 to 60 days. They'll start having effects that they see within the first couple of months. And then that final group, the late responder type, those are people that maybe take 90 days or longer. And why that is, I don't know. I mean, it's a whole host of things. And of course, we always want to default to genetics, which obviously has some role, but it's not the role. It's just part of the story. But you have genetics, you have your own individual biochemistry, you have your own history of exposures to pollution, radiation, all this crap in the environment today that humans certainly before the Industrial Revolution didn't have to deal with. And then since then to today, all these chemicals that have been introduced into production and industrialization have really taken a toll on us. So all these different things going on are definitely significant. And then, of course, your own, how you've behaved, like from the time you were born up until whatever you are today. How did you eat? How did you exercise? Did you smoke? Did you drink a lot of alcohol? Did you use a lot of over-the-counter drugs? Did you use illicit drugs? Did you use lots of prescription drugs? So, I mean, all of those different things. Imagine trying to put that whole picture together and then giving somebody an honest, factual answer about how you're going to respond to daily brain care. I mean, it's not exactly the easiest answer to give you, but
rocket science, huh?
No, exactly. It's harder. It's actually harder than rocket
Oh yeah.
science.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
so
I've said that for forever. I mean, I think when the first time I heard somebody who said they were depressed and they were going to a clinician, and to get undepressed, and I would like, how's that going? And like they said, well, I've been going for about 3 years, and I went, you're still going? And they went, well, yeah, I'm still depressed. I went, well, it doesn't seem to be working. And then I see these things on TV where they say, if your depression medication isn't working, add our depression medication to it. And then they say some of the side effects might be suicidal thoughts. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm already depressed. You're going to give me another medication that might make me even more depressed,
That's
but you're
right.
telling me to go ahead and take it, right? I'm like, there's something wrong with the system.
That's
Our
right.
belief system is what it is, our belief system. So,
That's
yeah,
right.
so and obviously I need to get a hold of some of your products. So I'm going to be one of those people. Uh, but yeah, so I mean, you talked about last time we talked, you talked about it being maybe help for Alzheimer's. I mean, you just don't know what it's going to help with. And I'm focused on the brain, and you're focused on the overall body. And I think when you get to be my age, one of the things you worry about is getting to that Alzheimer's stage where people. I've got friends in the park whose husbands are 80 years old and suffering big time from Alzheimer's. And you're like, what a horrible way! What a horrible way for your spouse to have to live taking care of you. And then what a horrible way for you to end up. And I always make jokes. I said, well, I wouldn't mind having Alzheimer's because I wouldn't know I'm suffering. That's one of those deals where you go, well, maybe, but it puts the burden on so many other people. And I think if we can discover it, so if I can discover your stuff that will help me get sharper, help me sleep better, help me improve my overall energy levels, which is what health is all about, man, what a blessing that could be.
Absolutely, Steve. Well, and in fact, our Alzheimer's study is the reason why you and I are sitting here having this conversation today. We tested daily brain care in a group of people with moderate to severe Alzheimer's disease. And we showed after 12 months on this formula, actually at 9 and 12 months, they had clinically and statistically significant improvement in cognitive function according to the ADAS-Cog, which is considered to be the gold standard for assessing cognitive function in people with any type of dementia, including Alzheimer's. And so that finding, Steve, in our first paper we published from the Alzheimer's study back in 2013 was and still is my most significant scientific achievement to this point in my life. And it propelled me to where I am today, 11 years later. But compare that finding in people with moderate to severe Alzheimer's to anything else out there. And I don't mean to sound like an arrogant jerk when I say that, but it is true.
Too late.
but if you compare it to the 5 FDA-approved drugs for dementia, any type of diet, any other dietary supplement, exercise, hyperbaric oxygen, acupuncture, red light therapy, sound therapy, music therapy, literally nothing else compares to that finding. And so we discovered something very special and very unique with this polysaccharide formula. And so it's just continued to fuel me and drive me today. But we also showed improvements in immune system functioning. We showed a reduction in inflammation. We showed an improvement in adult stem cell production. And these folks were 79.9 years of age on average. So these were very old, very sick folks.
Hey, wait, very old. Wait a minute now.
Well, I mean, we're
79 is very old. Well, I'm 75. So I'm getting close to very old. I thought I was just old. Now I'm getting close to very old.
Well, we had people in their 80s and 90s in this study. So it wasn't just, I don't mean to be personally offensive when I'm saying that. It's just that, when somebody's on average 80 years of age, I mean, you're already past life expectancy for an American, especially if you're a man. I mean, you're at it, that's where Americans typically die. And these people, by the way, didn't just have Alzheimer's disease. They had diabetes, they had depression, they had different forms of heart disease. These were, again, very sick folks. And our capacity to make adult stem cells declines, unfortunately, like so many other things as we age. And so we were able to shift all of these things back to what would look like a younger person. essentially.
That's cool. So,
And so,
we got about 3 minutes to wrap this up, unfortunately. But why don't you? How would I get a hold of this product, or how would I learn more about you and this product?
well, drlewisnutrition.com, that's Dr. No period Lewis, Lewis nutrition.com is the best source of information. There's all sorts of articles, videos. I mean, it's loaded with all the information about our research. And Daily Brain Care is there in both powder and capsule form. For people who want to order it from Amazon, they can go there. And then all the typical social media channels, the Dr. Lewis Nutrition handle, you can find us there. But on social media, obviously, those are just very quick hits of information. Really, the best source of information is our main website, drlewisnutrition.com. There's an email there, phone number. If anyone has questions about the research, the products, like the effects that you're asking about, I'm happy to help people.
And I think it's important for all of you folks listening. It's important to note that this is Dr. Lewis, right? He's not promoting somebody else's product. He's not selling you something from somebody else's website. If you want to talk to him, you can reach out. He'll talk to you. He can email you. But it's important to understand that there are people in what I consider small business, right? Whether it's making $1 million, I don't know how much he makes, whether it's making $1 million or whether it's making $500. There are people out there who want to help people and are not trying to be big pharma. They're not trying to take advantage of you. They really believe and spent their life creating something that will make a difference to all of us. So I highly recommend that you go take a look at the website, reach out and talk to him if you need to, order the product and come back and tell us exactly how it's changed your life. And isn't that what we want? I'm 75. I would love for it to change my life by 10 or 20%, make me feel better, make me more energetic, all that good stuff that you worry about as you get older, whether you're 50 years old, whether you're 30 years old. This is important to start the process in your body of improving cellular nutrition and growing your overall health. And that's what we lack in America right now. So, John, I'll give you about 30 seconds to give us some more information before we wrap this up.
Well, Steve, you don't look 75 and you don't talk 75. So I applaud you for taking care of yourself. You look great. And again, thank you for this opportunity to be here with you and your listeners. If you and you mentioned your neighbor with someone with Alzheimer's. I mean, I'm happy to help any of those people. And as you mentioned, I put my name on the brand and the company. This isn't me trying to, trying to be slick or deceptive. No, this is my life's work, and I'm trying to bring this message to the world because I truly believe every single person, all 8+ billion people on the planet, could benefit from taking these polysaccharides every day in our product that you do not get from food. So this is why dietary supplements can be very useful. And again, you really have nothing to lose. There's no downside to this.
And what's important, he said that you won't get from food, especially, and I don't know where you're listening from, but especially here in America, when we have manufactured, when we have GMO'd everything so horribly that what we think is natural. They came out with that Bill Gates put a coating on your apples and your vegetables that could kill you. And so
I can't even believe that's legal.
I know. Well, money talks, unfortunately. That's what we've learned. We've learned that in everything from our politics to our pharmaceuticals to our food supplies. And that's the sad part. So please, I'm going to wrap this up. You've been listening to the Happiness Agenda. Obviously, I'm very excited about what the potential is for this, and I encourage you to go seek it out and learn more. Dr. John, this has been fabulous, and reach out to me at the Happiness Agenda. I'm Steve at stevesapato.com. God bless. Here, just a quick advertisement. I'm Steve Sapato. I don't normally do this, but I took this stuff and it's fabulous, and I highly recommend that you give it a try if you are having any problems.